Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays Hyper Rogue. We are entering the end game and going into the forest here where we don't actually need to collect treasures, but we might as well while we're here. I do not intend on going for a Hyperstone victory, just because we don't have the skills, basically. So I am going to try to put into effect some of the things that I've learned from this guide. Was talking about wanting to kind of carve a swath through the forest around himself to make it easier to deal with both fire fairies and hedgehog warriors. And basically you cut kind of a wider area around yourself so that you both slow down the fire and have room to fight the hedgehog warriors, and we have quite a few of them coming up. Now, it may not always be best to spend a lot of time hacking through the walls, just because the fire is catching up with us, so things are getting pretty tricky, and I may actually want to just run for an exit more than anything else. And let's see if I can get... Oh boy. Okay, things are looking pretty tough, but I think we can manage this. I can actually get two of them at once like that. That's always a little bit satisfying. There are always those little cute little things, I call them, that I really like in games that kind of don't have a point and are often even counterproductive, but that kind of just increase my enjoyment. And that's part of where I started coming up with this idea of wrong playing, is kind of these silly little things that I like in games that I used to drive one of my friends crazy because I was always focused on these silly little things that don't actually have much impact on, like, playing the game normally. And so that's sort of where a big part of where the idea of wrong playing comes from, is this idea that I was always playing the game incorrectly. That was very nearly... I nearly got cornered there, and the fire is coming up to us, so things are pretty dire still. And I just want to open up a path around myself as much as I can. Luckily, the fire takes, I believe, 5 turns to cross grass. Okay, so tactics arrows time again. I have a guy who is going to come up probably... So, if I cut this tree down, he will probably come up to the space directly below me. These two guys will probably line up on the other side of me, making it so that I cannot actually stab in that direction, but if I cut this tree, I'll be able to stab to the left here. And that way, I should be able to escape. Okay, he moved to a different tile than I expected, but I think that still holds, and I still have enough room to maneuver. So, managed to get out of that. Ended up being a little bit easier than I expected it to be. Now, I'm just not seeing any exits. That's getting a little bit worrying. Let's see, we have 5 flowers, so we may as well pick up another one, even though there's really no point in us picking up any at all. Another fire fairy. This is worrying. I think I see an exit, though. So, we just need to cut through here. And we should be able to... Oh boy, there's another fire fairy. And that is really going to block us in. Need to deal with this hedgehog warrior, cut my way out, and we made it. Wow, that was about as tense as it could get. Okay. So I am enjoying this quite a lot. I hope the hive doesn't burst into flames. So there's nothing for us here. We don't actually have anything to gain. We're not going for a Hyperstone victory. So it's best just to head into the crossroads. Now I would like to get some emeralds. I believe we need 5? Because I want to show you one of the areas that I don't believe... I can't remember if we have actually gotten into Camelot in the past. I don't think we have. So I want to show you that. Zeno, the guy who develops this game, actually said that he thinks Camelot is more difficult than the Yendor quest, the main quest. But it's not dangerous, so we can at least take a look at it. We also want to get the graveyard knocked out. That will help us with both quests, the Yendor quest and the Camelot quest. So let's see. I need to let this guy move up and then charge him, because you move towards those guys to fight them. This guy we fight normally. This guy we move away from to fight him. And then we've got quite a few more coming up. And the hedgehog warriors you have to move adjacent to. That's kind of the thing that I really like about the Emerald Mine, is that it plays very differently from the other areas because of these tactical considerations that only really show up here. So this will be our 5th emerald, and that should cause Camelots to start spawning, if I remember correctly. And we may as well take this Orb of Speed. We do want to head into the graveyard. This is something that we need to get done. I don't want to spend a lot of time in the graveyard, but the Orb of Speed should make things easier, because it'll take us just as long to move around and get to everything, but it delays all of the other monsters, and so it delays the necromancers. It makes them take longer to get up to us, it makes them take longer to raise the dead. And now I'm just not seeing any totems, and so we may need to... There's one. And I do believe that fighting monsters causes more treasures to spawn. This is not really spectacular, trying to get through the graveyard with other monsters after us at the same time. And there's Hell. So we are now spawning Hell. I guess we've been able to spawn Hell pretty much since this episode started. And oh, the shadow is really troublesome. The shadow just traces your path. I don't know how far behind you it follows, but it basically just follows behind you and you can't fight it. That's an Orb of Ether that could be useful. I don't really have a use for it right now. I don't actually need to go into the silver mine for anything, so it looks like we're not spawning Camelot, so we may need more emeralds than I thought we did. So probably we want to get 10 of those. But we may just want to go for the Demon Daisies and start getting Orbs of Yendor so that we can try and wrap this up. Because once we're spawning Orbs of Yendor, we still have a lot that needs to get done. Though we need totems from the graveyard in order to make that whole thing possible, and we need a lot of dead orbs. We need so many dead orbs. Probably gonna want like 20. Maybe we can get by with fewer, but it's gonna be really challenging. So we're at 6 emeralds. I do want to see if we can... 6 may have been the magic number. I'm now like really not certain about any of my memories about how this game works, how things unlock, but we'll see if we're spawning anything now that we have 10. And that is a vineyard. Don't really want to mess around with that. But there's a graveyard just on the other side of this vineyard, so looks like we should be able to just cut right through into it. And we need 5 more totems. So we'll just head out here. I do want to be careful. The graveyard has gotten me killed in the past. And so I want to not be too reckless. And I do want to head into the crossroads because I do want to see if Camelot is spawning yet. And I'm not seeing it. They were pretty common the times that I have seen them. And I'm not seeing them spawn, so I'm not sure what is still missing. I'm not sure what it is that we still need. But I think the best thing to do at this point is probably just to continue on through the game and continue on pursuing the main quest, which means heading into hell and gathering demon daisies. I don't know if that orb of ether will do anything for us, but it's something to have to increase our options at least a little. Let's see, we have 3 demon daisies, so we are getting up there. So I do want to do some other things in this game. There are some other challenges that I want to work on. One is the Camelot quest, which is a really interesting puzzle that I think I mentioned the developer of this game thinks is actually more difficult than the Yendor quest. Then there's trying to get a high score in the temple. The Grimoire high score is something that I would really like to try doing because it's so challenging and kind of a different kind of challenge than this game presents. And then there's also the Hyperstone quest that we have tried to go on a few times in the past and has been pretty well unsuccessful. So here's Camelot. So we have a moat, and then there will be a place in the moat that we can cross. So we need to find the entrance to Camelot. And it's a circle, or, as close to a circle as you can get in this kind of hexagon tiling. Let's see, what's that? Orbis speed. Don't need that for here. So we have these knights. The knights are actually friendly, and they will go around the table. This table is 28 cells wide, and at the very center of it is the Orb of Yendor. Or not the Orb of Yendor, what is it? The Grail. And so we need to figure out how to get to the center of this area. And there are, I think, millions or billions of cells in here. So I think we can see, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we can only see 7 in any direction. And so in order to get to the center, we're going to need to cross the area that we're able to see, I think 3 times, or 3 or 4 times before we can see the Grail. And for some reason, it's actually quite difficult to find a direction that is perpendicular to the walls. And so I have generally had this happen where you just keep running into the table, seemingly no matter what direction you go in. And also, you can't actually stop on the table, you have to jump over it. And then the knights laugh at my failure. So we need dead orbs, and that means totems, which means the graveyard. So let's head back to the graveyard, because that's what we need to move everything forward. And we're having a lot of vine beasts chasing after us, which is a little bit frustrating because they have kind of an unusual impact on the world around them. And a Yeti for some reason. I'm not sure why a Yeti is after us. We can fight that Necromancer, fight that Yeti. Let's see, that's 9, and this will be 10, and then we can head back over this way, where I am certain I saw a crossroads. There it is. Okay, so now we should be spawning dead orbs. So now we just need to keep an eye out for them and kind of wander around and not get too reckless in our wanderings. One thing that I talked about in the last episode wanting to do is use orbs a little bit more effectively. That's definitely not something I did right there, but it's something that I should be paying attention to. I don't think I want to go into the Land of Power. It's just, it's too much tactics, and it's too overwhelming. So I want to just focus on things that are a little bit simpler, because we have been getting very close to victory several times, and I'm just really kind of getting anxious to put that behind me, and I kind of feel like I want to get a Yendor victory before I try focusing on a lot of other things. I kind of feel like I want to get that quest done before I go on other quests. So going into the graveyard may not have been the best idea. We've got a lot of stuff coming at us from a lot of different directions, and I'm not always the best at seeing what's coming at us. So I actually want to get out of here as quickly as I can, but we picked up some more dead orbs, which is the reason that we went in there. So we have 4 now. 4 is not enough. We're going to be going, I think, 100 steps? At least 95 steps. I know that it's more than 95 steps. So we're going to have to find our way back. And that is going to require a lot of dead orbs. Basically, we're going to use them as breadcrumbs. So, what's 95 divided by 7? Because once you've gone 95 steps is when you get within sight of the key. And so that gives us a sense of, if we put 1 down every 7 steps, that is the absolute least that we can do. And I kind of actually would like to do more than that. It may be possible to use other landmarks, but I don't really trust myself to be able to do that. So that's 8. So what is 95 divided by 7? I don't actually know. And I'm not really in the space to do mental math right now. I don't think it's that important to know exactly. I do have a rough idea of what order of magnitude it is. And I want to have more dead orbs than we need. And so I really think that 20 or so is probably what's going to be best. I really am now kind of having a moment of just want to step back and say how much I like just how grueling this game is, and how much of like a big challenge it feels like. It feels like I'm really taking on something large when I play this game. And I think that that is part of why it feels like so much of an adventure to me. It's just because it has that element of endurance in it. And I may actually need to start moving my cutoff point. Now suddenly I'm not seeing very many monsters or dead orbs or much of anything, so this Orb of Storms actually may end up timing out, which I guess is a fine thing to happen. You know, I don't have to use... I tend not to use orbs very effectively, so it's not like I would be losing out on a whole lot. I'm kind of curious if the Orb of Storms will start fires. And I think if I stand here, I should be able to get a couple of these guys. Let's see. Okay, no, but it does start fires. And it actually sets the Vine Beasts on fire as well. So that's something interesting to keep in mind. I don't know that I would be able to use that for anything, and basically all that's going to accomplish is turning this forest over here into an impassable inferno. But since we're not looking for an Orb of Yendor yet, that's not too huge of a problem. I wonder if I can kill this Vine Beast. Yeah, the fire will spread to it. That's pretty neat. That's kind of one thing that a lot of roguelikes are known for, and that I really like whenever I encounter it, is just that the interactions in the game are kind of surprisingly detailed. And that's something that I actually really like about watching Catacomb Kids, which is a game kind of similar to Vagante. I've covered Vagante on this channel. I have not covered Catacomb Kids. It really feels like the NetHack of roguelike platformers, in that it's so complicated. There's just so many different interacting parts in the game, and it seems like every part of the game interacts with every other part. And it's just really impressive how much stuff is going on in that game. And I'm just kind of reminded of it in that. And NetHack is a game that is sort of one of the things that it's known for, is just how much interaction there is between the different parts. Like, the example people like to give is there's a monster in it that will turn you to stone if you touch it. And you can pick it up if you're wearing the right kind of gloves. And then you can carry it, but if you carry it downstairs and you're over encumbered, like you're carrying too much, like the weight of the stuff you're carrying is too heavy for you, and it'll tell you when you're over encumbered, you'll fall down the stairs, fall on the cockatrice, and get turned to stone. And the game is just full of that kind of interaction. And Catacomb Kids is really similar in that regard. Like, there's these crush traps that drop down, and then they're on a chain and they'll pull back up, kind of like the ones in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I think. No, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 actually has those crush traps on chains, because that's the one that I played the most. And there's these slimes, because slimes are really, really common in a lot of different RPGs. They're just a really common trope. Now, this is an Orb of Yendor, so if a crush trap lands on a slime, it will get stuck. And the goopiness of the slime will actually stick the crush trap to the ground. And the game is just full of stuff like that. Okay, so we have a key that is 93 cells away. So it's actually a little bit closer than I thought, but I don't know that that's going to make a huge difference. So because it's in the alchemy lab, I'm actually inclined to not go for this one, just because we have so few options moving around in the alchemy lab. Maybe we can try it. Maybe we can try. So, it's an alchemy lab that is directly across from a jungle. And there is a Land of Eternal Motion just to the side of it. So, if we go here, we won't be able to see the Orb of Yendor. But maybe we can remember that that's where it is. I think I want to put a dead orb kind of over here to let us know which direction to head in. And so that will be our first breadcrumb. And now I just have to pay careful attention to when it goes off screen, because we're kind of going in a little bit of a windy path. So there, it's just barely on the screen. And I would actually worry about... Well, okay, so if we leave a dead orb here, every time we pick up a dead orb, we will know that we need to then kind of look really carefully at... And we know that, okay, so it's Crossroads, Alchemy Lab is the first progression. And now we need to be pretty careful that we don't spill slime on that dead orb and lose track of it. And we just need to kind of hope that we get the right colors to be able to continue to progress toward. Now, I believe if we drop a dead orb here... Let's see, I actually want to drop it here so it's a little bit easier to see the other dead orb. So I'm going to drop it right here. The reason I'm going to drop it right here... Ah, that was actually probably a mistake, but that lets us change what color we're on. But that actually may have been a fatal mistake. I don't think we have any way of escaping here. And we're going to have two guys coming up to us. Yep, that's game over. Well, we made it further than we have before. We actually made it to the point where we were laying down breadcrumbs and looking for the key. We have made it to a key in the past, but in that episode, I did not actually know... Actually, I may not have uploaded that episode, I don't remember now, but the time that I made it to a key, I didn't actually know that I needed to lay down breadcrumbs in order to make it back. So, we still have a lot of things to do in this game. One thing that I'm going to really put some thought into is, you know, I kind of have this sense that I want to get a Yendor victory before I try other challenges in this game. But maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe, because that is really coming from a point of view that there's a right way to play this game, which of course is something that I'm trying to push back against. And so maybe I will actually not go for a Yendor victory next time. That's a decision that I will have to make, but it's something that I definitely want to think about. I really like going for the Yendor victory. It has a lot of challenges that I really enjoy, but so does a lot of this game. So I would really love to hear your thoughts if there is... You know, if there's something that you would like to see me do in particular, I would really love to hear about that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, but most of all, have a great rest of your day.